Previously on the Skip and Josh Sports Show.
But I mean, they have a really good team.
They do have a really good team.
I don't think they need to blow up the team. They need to just fix the team.
I'm glad you said they have a really good team because...
Well, they're the first overall, like, basically top 3 or 4 team in the NHL the last, like, 5 years, right?
If their GM called up the Canadiens GM
Yeah.
and said, I'll trade you my entire team for your entire team, I would do it in a heartbeat.
The Skip and Josh Sports Show is on now.
Good morning, Skippy. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing also very good. A little sore. I played goalie in ball hockey this week. I haven't played goalie in ball hockey in over 25 years. So it wasn't very good this week. Like, I let in a lot of goals, and I'm very sore right now.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that.
That's okay. I mean, it was, I wanted to try it, and our goalie was missing, so
Right.
so I played.
You need to call, like, that 1-888 rent a goalie.
You know, I've tried that actually.
Yeah?
It's not so much a phone number, but an email address, and you can.
They'll bring you a goalie.
Well, I mean, you have to pay for it, obviously.
Yeah.
So sometimes once when we were really desperate, we did that. It's not cheap.
No, I'm sure it's not. Another week's gone by and didn't speak to you the whole week.
Yeah, which is good because, you know, that way we have a bunch of stuff to talk about.
I texted you
actually,
and you didn't write back, and I was getting worried because it's usually me that doesn't write back, and so.
Well, the reason I'll tell
I know
the
you told
listeners.
me
Yeah,
I
so
texted you at the wrong
You texted
times.
me while I was playing hockey, and my games end late, and then I got to drive home a couple of guys that I play with, and by the time I get home, it's even later. I'm tired and I'm hungry. I just want to eat and sleep. So this is why I didn't respond to your text till the next day.
Right.
But
so what's been
there's
going on
something
this
that
week?
I didn't mention last week. We recorded in person.
Mm-hmm.
I was all thrown off by the fact that you were sitting right next to me that I forgot to mention something.
Go for it.
So this is old news, but I want to mention it now. When your favorite team gets eliminated from the playoffs, everyone's going to have a different answer to this question. I'm curious to know what your answer is. So when your favorite team gets eliminated, the team that eliminated your team, do you want them to lose right away because you don't like them? Or do you want them to win the championship so that you can say your team theoretically was the second best team in the league because they lost to the eventual champions?
Now, you think this is just a random question and that I might have an answer or might not have an answer. But I've thought about this question for my whole life.
Okay.
And I didn't
tell you in advance that I'd be asking you this.
No. And for me, I know people that will always say, "Oh, I'd rather say my team lost to the champion." That, like, we can say we lost to the champion, you know, like, so Canadians fans are like, "Oh, let's hope the Rangers go all the way now, so we can say we lost to the Rangers," right? But me personally, no. Maybe that thought comes into my head, like for like a day or a few hours. I'm like, yeah, let's lose. Let's hope that the team that beat us, goes all the way. But then the thing is, as the other series unfold, you're like, me personally, I could switch allegiances based on something I see in the series, a player that I like, So, like, I don't know. I think it all depends. I don't think there's, like, for me personally, I don't care about that. I'm cheering for whoever I feel like.
Okay. I don't really have a preference one way or the other. Like, I wasn't rooting for the Rangers to go far, and the fact that they lost, I'm not upset. But if they had won, I wouldn't be upset either.
Right.
But the reason I ask is because, as I just mentioned, if the Rangers had gone on, then in theory, you could say, oh, well, the Canadians lost to them in 6 games. And so you could say that, oh, the Canadians lost, but they lost to the Stanley Cup champs.
Yeah.
But now that the Rangers lost in the very next round and Ottawa beat them, I think it magnifies how bad a season the Canadians had.
Well, they had a good season. They just had a bad playoff.
Right. So sorry. It magnifies how bad of playoffs they had.
Yeah.
So,
well,
anyway.
I mean, look, I don't know any Canadians fans that are cheering for Ottawa. Personally, I can't stand Ottawa. I don't know if you saw an article recently. It was on one of the bigger websites, TSN or Sportsnet. Like, is Guy Boucher ruining hockey?
What's the difference between Ottawa of this year and the Devils of 15 years ago?
I agree. I mean, look, the rules are the rules. Like, he's not doing anything wrong. He's playing defensive hockey. You know, if that's what he thinks is gonna win games, then that's his right to do. You know, and he's not being paid to like, hey, let's score as many goals as we can. You know.
By the way, what's the difference between Guy Boucher and Michel Therrien and Claude Julien?
Not much. It's the same thing. Julien got hired, and everyone thought, oh, the Habs are gonna get a coach. They're gonna play. He plays more defensive than Therrien. You know,
Right.
like. So I mean,
if you don't like Guy Boucher, that's fine. Don't like him or love him or whatever. Do what you want. But I mean, there's no difference.
The difference is he's very extreme in his strategy. In that, like, you'll see off in Ottawa with no forecheck, none, zero. Right? All 5 guys are in the neutral zone, all 5. So that's his strategy, and if you don't like his strategy, come up with a way to beat it. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's all with like what players do you have to work with?
Yeah.
They don't have Jonathan Taves or Patrick Kane or Sidney Crosby or Evgeny Malkin. They don't have those guys.
Yeah.
So they can't play a wide open style.
They have a well balanced offense. I think they have quite many scorers. To be honest, they have a lot of scorers.
They don't really have any one forward that scares me.
No. I agree. They don't have one forward that scares you, but they have a bunch of good forwards. You know, Hoffman, Ryan, Turris.
It's similar to the Rangers, actually.
Yeah, they come at you. You know, they have and now obviously this guy. You know, like they're getting scoring from all the lines and you know. Carlson, I think, is opening a lot of people's eyes to how great he is. But
and he's playing hurt, so if he was healthy, he'd be even better.
I think everyone's playing hurt to a certain extent, but
for sure.
I mean, look, the Penguins, their blue line is completely decimated.
I can't believe the Penguins are still around.
Yeah, and they won last night. So the series is tied up 2-2. It'll probably go 7, and we'll see what happens there. I like the big story this week was, you know, is Fleury gonna play nets or are they gonna come back with Matt Murray? And
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I mean they came back with Murray. They came back with Matt Murray and they won the game. I mean, I don't think they won. I don't think they won because of him. Last night.
The difference between Matt Murray and Marc-Andre Fleury is negligible. If they were on different teams, they'd both be number 1 goalies on their respective teams.
Yeah.
And as you saw last year, the Penguins won the cup with Matt Murray, but they also won the cup a few years ago with Fleury.
Yeah.
And I mean, Fleury had 1 bad game. So I wouldn't have been surprised if they came back with Fleury. He had 1 bad game, and which, by the way, not all the goals were his fault.
Right.
The Penguins as a team played awful in the first period 2 games ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you have the luxury of having 2 number 1 goalies on your team. You can't go wrong with either one that you're going to play. And I don't think that is the deciding factor because either one was going to have played well. The question was, would the Penguins be able to score any goals? And yesterday they did.
Yesterday they did. Right. So, like I said, it's going to go 7. And I don't know, who are you cheering for? Like, I'm not cheering for Ottawa. I don't like them.
The thing is, I don't really like Ottawa, but the Penguins won the cup last year, and I don't like to see the same team win the cup over and over again.
Right.
Plus, I would like there to be a Canadian team in the finals.
Okay. I can understand that. I think a lot of people in Canada are cheering for Ottawa just because they want a Canadian team to keep going. But, you know, if you're a Senators fan, why don't you try going to a game? I mean, the games are still not sold out.
Yeah. No, I'm not a fan, and I'm not going to make
It's embarrassing for Ottawa. The games are not sold out. We talked about it at the beginning of the playoffs, and it's continuing. I don't know if they've outpriced themselves or fans are just apathetic there. I'm not sure.
It's a surprise. It's definitely a surprise to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, you obviously wouldn't see that in Montreal or Toronto or
I don't think you'd see it anywhere. You're not seeing it in Nashville.
Yeah,
Nashville
you're right. I don't know.
Nashville is like the building is rocking. You know, I don't know if the fans understand anything what's going on, but the building's full.
Now, by the way, speaking of Ottawa and ticket sales and fans, this year the Grey Cup's going to be in Ottawa.
Okay.
And actually, they're almost sold out. Even though the CFL season hasn't even begun yet, the Grey Cup's almost sold out.
Wow.
Which is good news for the CFL because last year the Grey Cup was in Toronto and they had to give away tickets.
But you often told me that the Grey Cup is attended by fans from all over the country, right?
It is, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't decide that they're going until they find out if their team is in it.
Right.
But and the Grey Cup is often sold out, you know, around the time that the season starts, around Canada Day.
Yeah.
You know, somewhere around there is when the Grey Cup gets sold out, even before anyone knows who's going to be in the game.
Right.
But last year, it was, a month before the game and there were tons of seats unsold, tons of tickets unsold, and they had to give away free tickets
Oh, that's
because
interesting.
they didn't want the building to look empty.
Yeah, sure.
But that's a Toronto thing. I mean, there's so many other things going on in Toronto.
Yeah.
Toronto people, CFL football is like 17th on their list of priorities.
Sure.
So
have you been watching? I mean, we talked a little bit about the Ottawa series. Have you been watching Nashville and Anaheim?
I've been watching a bit, and I want Nashville to win that series because, well, A, they've never been to the finals, and B, I'm tired of Anaheim. And I don't like Ryan Kessler. He just annoys me.
It's funny because there's a lot of people that feel so strongly about Kessler. He's certainly like public enemy number one, for a lot of opposition teams. Like he's just a jerk, right? Like
he's a bleep disturber.
He is. And I mean,
am I allowed to say that on the air?
Well, I mean, you can say whatever you want. It's our show. But so you heard Ryan Johansson's out now, right? He had surgery.
I know. That's upsetting.
So I think they are in trouble. He's a big part of Nashville's team, but I mean, certainly, the team's not built around him. They can overcome it, but it's going to be that much harder. And I mean, Ryan Getzlaf is playing. As much as Erik Karlsson is dominating the Eastern Conference playoffs, Getzlaf is dominating the Western Conference.
And that shouldn't be a surprise. I mean, Getzlaf's been one of the top players in the league for a decade now.
Yeah,
right?
No, it shouldn't be a surprise.
He's always on Team Canada, so I'm not stunned that he's having a good series.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to talk about of the whole playoffs is, once again, we are kind of ahead of the game in terms of like seeing things that are happening and commenting on them way before you start hearing about it on the mainstream TV and radio.
Yes, we are. And I think I know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
I've been on this since the beginning of the playoffs. There's no calls. There are no penalty calls. And now this week, all you heard about was what about how come the reffing, the officiating, how come there's no calls? And then both teams in the Anaheim Nashville game, you saw them actually right in the referee's face complaining about it, right? And I think the players are really frustrated, because the other game, I forget what game it was. It was the Anaheim, and someone took a penalty in the last 2 minutes and Nashville scored to tie it up. And it was like a penalty that's like, a hooking or a holding, like that the refs let go 600 times throughout the game, and all of a sudden in the last 2 minutes they decide to call it.
Right.
So that's what's really frustrating. But if they would just call things, the players would know what they can and can't get away with. Otherwise, just don't have refs,
Yeah, and then on the other side of that coin, yesterday in the Ottawa game, so there was a play where I think it was Turris.
Yeah.
He got high sticked.
Yeah.
And they didn't call it.
There's high sticking all the time that they don't call.
Well, in fairness, I don't think the ref saw it, but okay, whatever. And then like a minute later, Phil Kessel pretends that he got high stick, like his head jerked back.
And they call it.
And they call it, but he didn't actually get high stick.
Yeah.
Because he did a good job of acting.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's easy to criticize the refs because, look, hockey's extremely fast.
Right, and we get the benefit of watching
and it's
replays.
Extremely physical. So they do have to, they could call a penalty every minute, right?
For sure.
They could call a penalty every minute. Something's going on. As much as when the NFL season was going on, how much I hate the Seattle Seahawks because I feel they're a cheater team because their defensive backs have pass interference or defensive holding almost on every play, and they dare the refs to call them. And, the refs don't want to make a call on every single play, so they end up getting away with a lot of stuff. And the same thing is sort of going on here in the NHL playoffs, but not with any, strategy involved. It's just that, the play is so physical that it's out of control at this point,
Yeah, I don't know what to do about it. I don't.
But at the same time, in the NFL, in the Super Bowl, in overtime, there is a pass interference call that essentially decided the game, and it was a correct call. A guy standing in front of the net about to score, they smash him over, a cross check to the back, the guy could go flying, and you don't know if there's going to be a call, right?
No, you don't.
The chances are there is no call.
And maybe in the Stanley Cup Finals, maybe the reffing will be different, although I doubt it.
No, it won't. I feel that they put away their whistles even more as the series go. So, I don't want to come off like I'm whining and complaining about it, but like I told you, like I just feel that like we're not watching the same sport as we saw in the regular season, and the premium is on physical play and not on skill.
You're 100% right.
You know, and I like to watch hockey for both. I like the physical play and I like the skill, but there's got to be both. You know.
Did you notice, still on hockey, but not about the playoffs, did you notice that there was a story about where next year's NHL All-Star Game is going to be?
Well, that was the other thing I wanted to say. So, you know, a few weeks ago, you're the one that pointed out to me, like, I'm on top of everything, you know? I feel that I'm extremely knowledgeable about stuff, and then you're the one that pointed out to me the NHL hasn't announced where the All-Star Game is. And I'm like, whoa. I looked it up after we had recorded that day. I'm like, wow, Josh is on top of this, you know, like he's all over this. And I heard them talking about it on one radio show just shortly after, but really no one else is talking about it. You know, it's like a non-story, maybe because the playoffs are distracting people.
Right.
But it's certainly like anybody who's talking about Team Canada going to the not Team Canada, the NHL players going to the Olympics needs to realize that the NHL hasn't announced an All-Star game yet, which means the door is still open, right?
Right, because by now, normally they would have already announced where the game is, even though the schedule usually doesn't come out until after the playoffs.
Right.
But they would have announced the All-Star game, which they haven't done, and now rumor has it that it's going to be in Tampa.
Right. So, I mean, when they announced that there was an All-Star game, then I'll believe that the NHL players are not going to the Olympics.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I want the NHL players to go to the Olympics. And I don't know, was it last week or the week before you asked me what was the best hockey that we've ever seen? You know,
yeah.
and it's the Olympics.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
that's the best
hockey.
There's no goals.
The fact that, and never mind that, just in a regular game.
Yeah.
After every single whistle, a regular season game, like
pushing
in the middle of the season, after every whistle, pushing and shoving, and they have to break them up. And then by the time the face-off happens, but an Olympic game, it goes so much quicker because there's none of that stuff.
Yeah, that's so true. So true.
By the way, speaking of which, right now, as we're recording, Canada and Russia are playing in the semifinals of the World Hockey Championships, which I know everyone except for us is watching.
Have you watched it? Have you watched some of the games or?
You know, if I happen to be in front of a TV, again, the games sometimes are at 6 a.m. or 2 in the afternoon. So it's not easy to watch, but like there are TVs where I work. And so if the game's on and the TV and I happen to be next to a TV, I'll glance at it for a minute or two just to see what the score is.
We have a really dedicated listener in France, Phil. Mm-hmm. And he went to the game this week, Canada versus Finland. So I asked him about it, and he told me, it was lots of fun. Canada won and everything. He says the French, you know, obviously they don't know anything about hockey. So he says,
Cristobal Huet is on the French team.
Yeah, he says, but you know, it's like the game when the attendant, like the fans in the building really don't know anything about hockey. It's just a big party. And like the organizers of the event are really trying to make it into a fun family thing. And he says that they did a really good job in Paris of promoting the event and getting people to come. And he thinks it was a success. So
okay, good.
Yeah.
Check out the Skip and Josh Sports Show on Twitter. You know that little app with the little blue Tweety bird? Yeah, you can follow them there at Skip and Josh.
So have you been watching the NBA playoffs?
I don't watch the games, but I do know what the scores are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm stunned at how dominant Cleveland has been over Boston. It's not even a series. It's embarrassing. I think they had double the amount of points after the third quarter yesterday.
You know I'm a big Celtics fan, and
I know.
I was really excited for this series. Like the series against Washington was so exciting, and I was really excited to play Cleveland and, you know, hopefully be competitive, but it's honestly men versus boys. It's
and
embarrassing.
The Celtics had home court advantage, and it didn't make a difference.
Look, I mean, I think at the beginning of the playoffs, everyone said that it was going to be Golden State versus Cleveland, and that's what it's going to be, right? So
friend of the show, Neil, who used to live in Boston, cannot be happy about what's happening in the Celtics
no, of
Cavaliers
course.
series.
But I mean, look, everybody knew who was going to be in the finals, but I guess fans of the other teams were hoping for something else. You know as well as I do, there's not a lot of upsets in the NBA, but I mean, not a lot of upsets. I mean, not a lot of upsets is not like. I mean, we need like a time machine right now and just fast forward like like a week to 10 days so we could just get the final started. Like, there's no point in these games.
Speaking of that, this is what I heard, and I don't know how much truth there is to this, but the finals are supposed to start on June 1st.
Yes, they're advertising it on TV, so the game is scheduled.
But what happens if both Cleveland and Golden State sweep their series?
It's
so
not what
in other
happens.
words,
It's like they are going to sweep their series.
okay, so that means both series are going to be done like Monday or Tuesday of next week, which is in like 3 days from now.
Yeah,
and then you're telling me they're not going to start the finals until June 1st. By then, everyone's going to forget that basketball is still going on.
It's true. They're going to take a week off.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I don't know. Maybe they'll move it up, but I mean, the NBA usually sticks to their schedule. So I'm not sure.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, you don't want to. Who wants to wait a week?
Yeah.
Neither team.
No. So back to the Celtics. I missed the first couple minutes of the game yesterday. I came home. I turned it on. It was 11-10 for Cleveland. That was the score. I was
that's the closest it ever got.
Yeah, I was like, oh, good. The Celtics are in this game. Maybe you'll see some entertaining basketball. 2 minutes later, it was 23-10. And I was like, okay, this game's over. And then it just started more out of hand. It just kept getting. I mean, look, they're overmatched. And
I tuned in at one point. I think it was the third quarter, and it was like, was it 88-44?
Yeah. Well, they were
Something
winning
like
by
that?
40 at the half. They were winning by 41 points at the half.
That's a destruction.
Yeah. So, what's interesting right now is that I always find it. I found it interesting the last 10 years, the way the press treats LeBron James, because he came up, he was a superstar. Then when he went to Miami, he became like villain number one, right? Like, everybody hated him. The all you heard about is like LeBron. Everyone, it was all negative about LeBron, how he abandoned Cleveland and just went to Miami, and like obviously the whole ESPN the decision was like a bad decision for him. Like, I think that's what started all this. And then when he went back to Cleveland, it started to change. They're like, oh, he's a hometown hero again, and the press about him was more positive. But right now, it's never been more positive about LeBron. Like, I've heard stories this week about like LeBron James, like, and it's not untrue. He's the best player ever. As far as I'm concerned, he is.
Well, I mean, obviously he's in the conversation, and his numbers certainly would back up what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, but if you measure it by number of championships, which I don't, then he's got a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, well, but if you measure it just by championships, Robert Ory's better than him, so
right.
Yeah, but I mean, he's certainly in the conversation, and I just find it interesting how LeBron the villain has switched, and now somehow Steph Curry's the villain. Like, everybody hates.
Right. If anything, it should be Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Not
no,
Steph,
but I mean, Curry and Durant are like the villains now, because Durant went there and teamed up, and they have a super team, and like, well, that's what it is. So
really, Golden State should. I mean, they are breezing through the playoffs, but they should be breezing through the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because they had the best team, and then they added one of the top 7 players in the league.
Yeah. No, they should be, and it'll be interesting. Like, honestly, it'll be interesting for both teams, because neither team has faced any competition yet. Well, I mean, San Antonio with Kawhi Leonard, could give them a game, but then they're gonna all of a sudden play each other, and it's gonna be like a nuclear war,
Yeah, hopefully it goes 7 games.
Yeah, I mean, right now the way LeBron is playing, I don't know how anybody could stop him. So we'll see. We'll see if Draymond Green might kick him in the nuts. That might be the only way to stop him. I don't know, right?
That happened last year.
Yeah, I guess.
The Skip and Josh Sports Show is back.
So I want to switch gears and talk about baseball a little bit.
Baseball. We haven't talked about it much since our preview show.
Well, I don't want to talk about games specifically, but I mentioned how much I like the MLB Network.
Right.
And So as I watch it more and more, I like it even more.
Yeah, it's terrific.
So two things that I saw on MLB Network this past week that I really liked.
Yeah.
One was Eric Burns is one of their analysts.
Eric Burns.
Yes, used to be on the Oakland A's.
Oakland A's. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Wow. What a blast from the past.
So he's one of their analysts, and he's not actually that old. So I'm surprised that he's already retired. But anyway, what I liked about Eric Burns was he agrees with me that this whole hitting a batter after he's hit a home run is a joke.
Oh my God. It happened again this week with the stupid Jays.
Yeah, it did. And he thinks it's ridiculous that just because a guy hit a home run or he flipped his bat or he walked around the bases slowly or whatever it was, that he gets hit next time up. It's ridiculous. And meanwhile, actually, the reason that Bautista got hit that game was because the game before, one of the Jays pitchers hit Freddie Freeman and broke his wrist.
Yeah.
Which, you hate to see a guy get injured, especially a guy who's hot like that and have to miss 10 weeks or whatever he's going to miss. I don't know if it was intentional. I mean, the guy who was pitching for the Jays is a middle reliever and doesn't pitch that often. So I'm not sure if it was intentional or not. I'm sure he didn't intend on breaking his wrist. Right. Normally when you hit a guy on purpose, you hit him in the leg or the bum or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I just, the fact that Eric Burns agrees with me, and I'm sure there are other people out there that agree, I like Eric Burns from now on.
It's so, the baseball fights are just so ridiculous. Like, oh my God. Yeah, they should. I don't know. What are they going to do? Pitchers are going to pitch inside. It's the way it is. The players just have to be less sensitive, right?
The only way to stop it is if you say that if you hit a guy, you're gone, instantly.
Well, I think it's more. I told you last time they need to have a big fine, like a high dollar amount.
And you're right. And the manager also needs to go.
Like we always say, money talks, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the other thing I like about MLB Network is sometimes they have these like half-hour documentaries, kind of like 30 for 30, but they don't call them that.
Yeah.
And this week they showed one called The Colorful Montreal Expos. It was great.
Oh, yeah. I heard about it. Yeah, so it was all about the history of the team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's narrated by William Shatner.
Yeah. I've seen bits of it.
So so I actually recorded it because I didn't have time to watch it live, but I did see 2 minutes of it and it was great.
That's cool. Very cool.
So I love the MLB Network.
Nice. Very nice.
Now, and one other thing about baseball that I want to mention, completely off topic of anything else we've talked about. You were mentioning how you didn't like the officiating in the NHL playoffs. Mm-hmm. And, we can sit here and we can talk about a million calls in hockey and baseball and football that we've seen in our lifetime that were brutal calls.
Right.
But one umpire in baseball who has consistently made brutal calls year after year after year is C.B. Buckner.
Who is he?
I'm surprised you haven't heard his name. If you Google him,
yeah,
C.B. Buckner, it's spelled N-O-R, not like Bill Buckner. It's different spelling.
Yeah.
This guy, he's brutal.
Wow.
Like this week, this is what he did this week. This is just the most recent one. Manny Machado was up at bat for Baltimore. I don't even know who they were playing against. It wasn't against the Jays. And he checked his swing. And the home plate umpire called it a ball.
Okay.
And sometimes the catcher appeals to either the first or third base ump to see if the guy went around. But the catcher didn't even do that because I'm pretty sure the catcher realized that he didn't go around.
Right.
So unprompted, C.B. Buckner, who's umping at first base, calls him out.
Wow.
Machado was livid. And I don't blame him.
Right.
But and he's made like brutal calls like this in the past where it's clearly the opposite of what he's done. And I know that sometimes these umps, they get reprimanded or they get suspended or whatever. Like, okay, you can't ump next week or you can't ump in the postseason or whatever it is.
Right.
But like this guy should be out of Major League Baseball completely. I don't have a list of all the brutal calls that he's made. And I don't know if you Google it, maybe you'll find it. But this guy's just awful.
Wow. Well, actually, I just looked him up. I mean, look, MLB has a long history of the bad umpires in MLB are the ones that implicate themselves in the game when they shouldn't.
Oh yeah, he wants to be the star of the game.
Yeah, that's the big problem, right?
He does, 100%.
Yeah. In 2003 and in 2006, Sports Illustrated surveys of active Major League players voted Buckner as the worst umpire in the MLB.
He is. 100%.
In 2010 ESPN survey of 100 active players, Buckner was again named the worst umpire in MLB. So I don't know why this guy keeps umping, but it's not my decision or yours, right?
Anyway, I just had to mention that. I don't like when the ump wants to be the star of the show.
Right. No, I hate that.
Hi there, Skip and Josh will be right back. To get in touch with them, you can send them an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. You can follow them on Twitter @skipandjosh, and you can visit their website at www.skipandjosh.com. And now, back to the show.
I have a few non-sports things to talk about, and I think you do also. So what do you got?
Well, I saw a commercial this week, and I thought of you right away.
What?
Well, because I don't know if you're gonna. There's a show that's starting soon, and I don't know if you used to watch this show and if you're gonna watch it, but apparently Twin Peaks is coming back.
Oh God. Well, let me tell you about my long story with. No, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of Twin Peaks. I won't be watching. But the commercial is on like every 2 minutes.
It really is.
Well, because it happens to be because I watch a lot of TSN, and I guess they're advertising it on Crave TV, which is like a Bell Media thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the commercial for Twin Peaks is on constantly. Twin Peaks was really. I didn't watch. I mean, I watched it when I was younger.
I never watched it. I've never seen the show.
It freaked the hell out of me. It was a crazy show. Not that it was scary, but it was just incredibly creepy with super weird characters and
It's kind of like X-Files to me. I don't know the difference.
It's not so supernatural. It's not so supernatural. It's just that it's one of these shows that was weird just to be weird. You know, it was ultra out there. It was so out there, just to be different. You know what I mean? So look, I mean, I'm sure people are going to watch it because, it has a huge following, and I think the fans of the show are really passionate about it. But is it going to suck? Probably. Just like all the other reboots did. X-Files is complete garbage. There's so many things they try to. Hollywood is lacking ideas, so they go back to the past to find stuff, right?
Yeah.
Although I've heard Prison Break, the reboot, is fairly good. So,
I haven't seen any of the episodes yet. I'm going to binge watch it once the season's done, which I think is in a few weeks.
We should get Mike from Atlanta on. I'm sure he's watching it. He'll give us the review.
Oh, for sure. He loves that show.
Yeah. So non-sports stuff. I had a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah.
I was pretty active this week about posting stuff on our website, and I'm going to try to be from now on also. So, did you see that article that I posted about the female Marlins fan who flashed the Cardinals pitcher from behind the plate? So, if you haven't seen it, go to our website, skipandjosh.com. In the section links we like, you'll see I have an article about it with a couple of pictures. It's pretty funny because in the article that I posted, there's an interview with her, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't think it was going to be such a big deal, and I was just having fun and whatever."
You didn't think it was going to be such a big deal.
No, but the thing that you don't know is there's a longer article, a much longer one from a different website, where they go into greater detail about this little incident. So, those seats where she is there in Florida. It's the seats of the Marlin man.
Yeah, I know him. You see him at every game. It
so
doesn't
I know
matter where
we've talked about the Marlin man many times. He's at the World Series. He's at all the playoff games. He's at any big baseball game. He's there, even if it's not his stadium. Obviously the Marlins haven't been in the playoffs in years, but he's there, and he's usually wearing bright orange or bright Marlins colors behind the home plate. You always see him. Right. So. It says she was a guest of the Marlins man. That's his seats.
Except on the replay that you sent me, or that's on our site.
Yeah.
It looks like she's there with two of her friends because they're all dressed the same.
Yeah.
And then there's this other guy who's not wearing orange. He's wearing white.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that was the same guy.
Well, I don't know if it's the same guy,
man.
but that's his seats. Right.
Okay.
So I don't know, but I just found it really interesting that the Marlins man is a topic of conversation that comes up a little bit too often between the two of us.
All the time.
All the time.
Guy goes to every game, and he sits right behind home plate, so you can't miss him.
You can't miss him. So
he's always wearing the orange. So when it's a Boston New York game, and he's wearing orange, why is there a Marlins fan sitting behind home plate? I never understood it, and then we figured it out.
Me too. So the other thing that I posted this week was more sad news. So as I texted you the other day about what's your favorite Chris Cornell song,
Yes.
I didn't wait for you to answer, and I just posted some stuff on our website. So like, what do you were you a fan of Soundgarden, Audioslave?
I was a fan of Pearl Jam
Yeah,
and Nirvana.
yeah,
Audioslave not so much. Soundgarden a little bit. I did, I like the movie Singles, and the soundtrack's got a lot of that kind of music on it.
yeah.
So there is a Chris Cornell song on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Called Seasons. Which
Yeah,
I
it's
like.
a fantastic song. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so I guess that you could say I was a fan. Have I ever seen him live in concert? I have not.
Yeah.
Obviously it's very sad when someone dies at such a young age.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not a huge fan either of them, of Soundgarden, but I mean, there's certain songs that I really love. But I mean, it's when I read up more and more, I read about him this week. It was like the influence he had on the whole, grunge, was huge, right? Like I wrote on our website, it's like when you think of the '90s grunge, it's like Pearl Jam, Nirvana. That's what you think about.
Mm-hmm.
But Soundgarden was the first band. Like they were the front runners, but just the others got more popular,
Right.
And I think their influence, and specifically his influence on that rock era, is huge. So.
Right,
So,
and then the Temple of the Dog, they only had one album.
yeah,
Which actually I think came out in 91, but didn't get popular until a year later.
Exactly.
Only after Pearl Jam got popular.
Yeah, well, because Eddie Vedder sings right on that song Hunger Strike too.
Yeah.
So Hunger Strike is a fantastic song. That's like my favorite Chris Cornell song, and I put a link to the music video on our website, also in the links we like section. And I mean, whenever I think of Soundgarden, between me and you, I always think of Spoon Man. Because
I love that song.
Yeah, because back in the day when I was more into this type of music, that was like a song that on the radio I used to love to listen to on when we used to, when I was a little bit more into this type of music, like, which I think you still are, like you're a little bit up more on like the new music compared to me, but
I think that song was popular when we were living together.
That's why I always think about it.
So probably I was playing it a lot and you just heard it by accident.
Probably, yeah. And then the other thing I posted this week on our website was not as important to you, but certainly important to me and in my house, is that this big burger survey came out.
Yeah, I saw that story. You sent it.
Yeah, so apparently Five Guys has dethroned In-N-Out as America's top burger. So I don't know if you've ever had In-N-Out. Well, I mean,
I had In-N-Out once.
We tried to have it in Las Vegas.
Right, but we ended up having it, maybe not that night, but didn't we end up having it the next day?
Yeah, we did.
I think.
Yeah, we did. So, I mean, yeah, In-N-Out's great. And the last time I was in California, I made a point of going there. Like, I went out of my way to go there. And I do love In-N-Out. I like how the burger is very compact and everything. But I've got an appreciation for Five Guys. So it's been so long since I've had an In-N-Out that I'd have to go and retry it to really make up my mind. So in the article that I posted on our website, what's interesting is there's a million articles about like how Five Guys dethroned In-N-Out, and they're all basically the same article. They're taking a press release and making an article about it, talking about the survey and how the reason is that Five Guys has grown as a chain and they've reached out like all over the country, whereas In-N-Out is still mostly a West Coast thing. So like unless you're out on the West, you don't have a chance to try it. Mm-hmm. But then there's an article that I linked to from a magazine or a website called LA Eater. And they're bitter about it. They're like so mad. They're like, apparently some idiots think that Five Guys is better than In-N-Out. And then they go on to post pictures of the burgers of comparison to show you. So they show you these beautiful, beautiful In-N-Out burger pictures right next to Five Guys burgers that look terrible.
They just made them look bad.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm sure you could find bad pictures of In-N-Out burgers too, right? I mean,
right. Like, you could probably find a bad picture of me on the internet somewhere.
Yeah, well, that might be hard to do. But so I just found it was funny because they're kind of bitter about it. The people in California, it seems. So
it doesn't surprise me.
No, it doesn't.
It's funny. It's just funny. It's good.
Yeah, it's good. All right, that's all I got.
I wanted to tell you one other thing before we go.
Mm-hmm.
I finally used the Harry's razor that you got me months ago.
Oh, Harry's razor. Yeah. How do you like it?
Well, I mean, I told you I don't shave that often. So, I wanted to wait till my existing blade was too dull, and so I used the Harry's razor, and I've only used it twice, so I don't have a full assessment yet. I can tell you that it's different from my regular razor, and I don't know if it's different good or different bad, but
Yeah.
it seems like when the shaving cream accumulates on the Harry's razor
Yeah.
quicker,
That's
and so you
possible.
have to rinse it more often.
But I find that the back of the blade is very easy to rinse it. Like,
That's true. It
it's
is
like
easy.
it's like they make it easy to clean it in a way. But you know, the thing with the Harry's razor is there's a lot of hype, right? Especially for me and you, because we listen to the Tony Kornheiser show and they
Right.
talk about it. And I mean, a lot of podcasts now advertise Harry's razor, and you see it in different stores. It has like a following, but I mean, it's not like a revolutionary product. It's not like you're getting it's not going to change your life, you know? It's a good
No.
razor. It's a good razor. That's it.
But is it actually less expensive than a regular razor? I don't even know what razors cost because I haven't
I
bought
think
one
the
in so
blades
long.
are less. It's not the razor itself, it's the blades that are less because
And
the
can you
yeah.
get the blades in Canada?
No, online.
Only online.
I haven't seen them in a store here yet.
Okay.
But I mean, you can get them in the United States. You can get them at different like actual stores. You know,
Right.
like you can go in and buy them. Like the one, like I got it at any Target. They have it, but I mean, we don't have Target in Canada anymore. So
Right. And was it you that told me that there's like a special, not really a crevice tool because that's for a vacuum cleaner, but like a special little part of the razor that gets to like hard to get spots?
well, it has the back of the blade is like the little trimmer thing, like a lot of razors have, but that's it.
See, I don't, maybe that's not on mine because I didn't notice anything.
No, it's
I
very.
have to go look at it.
You go look at it. It's there. It's just that I found it hard to use the trimmer because when you're used to using the trimmer blade, like the back of the blade on other razors, it's a little bit more obvious. And this one, you have to do it like at a little bit of a different angle. So once you get used to it, I found it's really good. But at the beginning, I didn't know how to use it.
So anyway, I have to go look at it because I didn't know that there was anything on the back of the blade.
Oh, I'm sure it's there.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So next week we're gonna hear about your shaving again.
Yes.
So everyone thinks now that you shave like once every 3 months or something.
Once a week, but I mean, it's, I don't, it's just my neck. It's not even my face.
Right. Sure. You're
So.
you're trying to keep that stubble going, right?
Yeah, which I do. I mean, and especially on weekends, I don't shave at all. So it's just Sunday nights, really.
Beautiful. All right, so we're gonna watch some. Go watch the rest of the Canada-Russia game.
Oh yeah,
And-
I'll give an update on the score while we're still on the air.
Mhm.
It's 0-0 in the middle of the second period.
All right, so I'm gonna probably go watch the rest,
Okay.
and we won't watch any NBA playoffs this week. We'll try to skip right to the finals. And NHL, I'm gonna keep watching them. I have to admit, I've watched more NHL playoffs this year. Like after the Habs, when the Habs are not in, I don't always watch, but I find the both series really good, especially in Nashville, Anaheim. So it's it's good hockey. I mean, it's not good hockey. You heard me say it's bad hockey, but it's drama. There's a story. It's exciting,
Yeah, because both series are tied.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so they're going to each go at least 6 games and likely 7.
Yeah, no, I'm sure
as
they're both
opposed
going
to
to
the
go
NBA,
7.
which both of these series are going to go 4.
Yeah, they should go 2. They should just cancel them.
Yeah.
Celtics should actually just like wave the white flag and say, "Okay,
Is
we're
there
not-
a mercy rule in basketball?
if there was a one, it would have been last game." But they should like basically the Danny Ainge should come out and say, "Look, we're not going to go to Cleveland for game 3 and 4, and that's it. The series is over."
Because it's too expensive for us to fly and get a
No,
hotel.
it's like the mental trauma on his players is going to be too much, right? He's putting them through too much by getting. They're going to if they lost by 40 in Boston, they're going to lose by 60 in Cleveland.
We didn't talk about the NBA draft lottery happened this week. So
So yeah, I actually watched the draft lottery show. It's well done because once it starts going, it goes quick, right?
yeah, it's I didn't get to see it.
They just
Again,
reveal the picks. So
I was at hockey, but some people say that the lottery is better than the draft itself.
well, it's just because it's quick and the whole thing's done in 10 minutes, and you know exactly what happens.
But what I didn't realize, because I don't follow the NBA as much as you, there's
Yeah.
a couple things I didn't realize. If the Lakers didn't get one of the top 3 picks, then they wouldn't have any pick at all this year or next year.
Right. If the Lakers pick was out of the top 3, they had to give their pick to the Sixers. So the Sixers almost could have had 2 picks in the top 5. Like let's say the Lakers got the number 4 pick. Well, then the Sixers were going to pick 3 and 4, which would have been unbelievable.
Right.
And there's all kinds of weird, convoluted rules in the NBA draft because there's weird trades that go on. And I mean, the Celtics seem to have the New Jersey Nets picks for lifetime.
See, I didn't know about this till this week when I heard that they got 3 first-round picks from Brooklyn for was it Pierce Garnett, and I don't even know who the other guy was.
Pierce and Garnett. It's like the worst trade in history.
Why would Brooklyn make that trade?
They were so stupid. Well, I mean, at the time they were like, "Oh, we're gonna get Pierce and Garnett." So then the Celtics were like, "Okay, well,"
when they were 40 years old.
Yeah, but the thing is, you're not allowed to give up first-round picks in back-to-back years. So I don't know. I don't want to I don't remember the exact trade. But they're not allowed to give up their first round pick this year and next year. So the Celtics are like, okay, so you'll give it to us this year, and then in 2 years from now, and then in 2 years from now.
Yeah.
so
all
they've
the
got
odd
picks
numbered
like
years.
crazy. Yeah.
So the Celtics, who are a good team, although you wouldn't know it when they were playing the Cavaliers, but the Celtics are actually a decent team. They're going to get a great player this year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the consensus number 1 seems to be this guy Fultz from Washington.
Yeah.
Which is weird because his team wasn't in the NCAA tournament, so he had much less visibility compared to other players, right?
Right. Yes.
And I mean, a lot of fans think the whole thing was fixed because the Lakers are going to get Lonzo Ball now,
right?
With the number 2 pick. And then 3, they're not sure, right? Malik Monk, De'Aaron Fox. There's a few picks. Jason Tatum is like 5 or 6. You know, like they don't know where he's gonna go. So
yeah, there's a bunch of decent players. I mean, the top 7 guys are all roughly the same.
Yeah, they're good.
You've got 2 guys from Duke. You got 2 guys from Kentucky. You got a guy from Kansas.
Yeah, and then the guy who wasn't in the tournament's gonna go number 1. But everything I've heard and read this week is that he's the consensus number 1. Like in terms of his skill, his body size, but that doesn't mean anything. You know, like you have to produce, right? So. But certainly coming into Boston is a good situation, right? Because he might not have to start right away. He can come off the bench, right? Like not all the pressure is going to be on him. Like Lonzo Ball is going to go to LA. They're going to throw him right in and say, "Okay, bring us back to glory." Meanwhile, their team's garbage, right?
And if the Celtics get Gordon Hayward from the Jazz,
well, I mean, it seems like, look, I was telling my son last year that they were going to get Gordon Hayward, and now everybody's talking about it because it seems imminent.
He wants to be reunited with his old college coach.
It's his old coach. He's a free agent. It's his old coach. I mean, the Jazz want to keep him. They had this whole campaign, #Stayward. So,
I didn't know that.
So, the Jazz fans are trying to, rally to make him want to stay. And the Jazz are a good team. You know, they're a good team. They're up and coming. But I don't know. We'll see. The Celtics they're definitely going to go for him. They're definitely going to try to get him, right?
Well, they need to do something. Although,
look, if they could add Gordon Hayward to their team right now,
I still don't think they'd beat the Cavaliers.
No, but they're certainly going to become a much better team, right? You take away. I mean, look, I don't know how much you follow it, but you just take out Jay Crowder and put him on the bench and put in Gordon Hayward. All of a sudden, wow, your team's way better, and they're going to get the number 1 pick. So I think Danny Ainge is going to try to extort the Lakers into swapping picks. You know,
I know.
He's going to tell them. He's going to tell them nudge, nudge, wink, wink, magic. We're taking Lonzo Ball
for sure. I would do that too.
You better swap picks with us and give us someone, right?
But I heard there's no one on the Lakers that the Celtics could even use.
Yeah, maybe they'll give him a 2nd round pick, or maybe they'll give him something. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I'm sure there's someone they could use, but
we maybe need to have 2 special episodes: our NBA draft preview and our NHL draft preview.
Yeah, well, I think we'll get my son Matthew to come on for the NBA draft. I think he'll have a lot to say about it. We'll try to get him on to do a preview. He's a huge Sixers fan. He's become all about all the Philly teams.
There were rumors all over the internet that your son was going to come on and do an NFL draft preview, and it never materialized.
He went to play PlayStation instead.
By the way, Russia just scored. It's 1-0 Russia over Canada.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, I'm going to go watch that game, and we'll speak to you next week.
Okay, have a good week.
All right, bye.
The Skip and Josh Sports Show is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.